All right, folks. Game week 26, here we go. Welcome to FPL Banter Show. I almost thought I wouldn't record this, guys. I kid you not. I've been having some Wi-Fi problems. Honestly, moved to a new place. Long story short, yeah, my Wi-Fi just fluctuates. So I might be able to do the live FPL commentary this weekend. Today, actually. If not, I'm so sorry, but I'm really trying to get it going. Today, what we're going to do really is we're going to take a look into what are the transfers that we should be making. I did a free hit 26 for those who are going to be using these free hit. And then I'm going to take a look at my team, and we basically just going to try and make things a lot more simpler for you guys before the deadline. So let's jump straight into it, just as we do all the time, taking a look at where we at in the FPL Banter League. Um, yeah, guys, Mikey's still at the top there, Big Mouth FC, but Legendary Kings is closing in. To me, Siamo, dog, you got to do better if you're going to be on the show, man. You got to do better. Caps, the wheels are just wiggling, not falling off, but Killer Squad's got you in sight, so watch out, my man, watch out. And then we got Crossbar there hitting the bar, Crossbar not being able to take over, and then Sahlaga Kulu not necessarily growing that tree, hey? Not at all. The Banter Boys are doing their thing, bantering everybody, hitting the highest score. Well, actually, no. Kicked in the balls by Naz with a 98 score, not taking any hits and captaining Haaland at the same time. I'm sure he triple captain. And the top 10 still in number 10, Clapback FC Sprinkle at 88 points. Yeah, man, guys, that's the FPL banter. You know what to do. The league code, if not in the description, is in the beginning in the intro screen. So please check that out. But without further ado, let's quickly talk about those transfers. So we already know about the press conferences, what the news is basically. This is really up just to give you guys some vision into what's going on. Now, there's two types of managers right now. There's the managers who have used their free hits and the managers who haven't used their free hit, because we're all trying to plan towards game week 29, right? Now, 29 is the time where some managers are considering to use their free hits. So they don't necessarily need to plan their transfers in the sense of making sure they do have players who don't blank in 29, right? Now, let's talk about players who let's talk about managers who are not going to use their free hit. You guys are looking at players at the moment. At the moment, we're looking at these players, players from Aston Villa, and we're looking at West Ham right now who are not in form. We're looking at Fulham, which, quite frankly, they're not appetizing. And I can't remember who else we're looking at. Sorry about that. But what I can say is, from my opinion, guys, we should only necessarily be looking at Aston Villa, the Aston Villa players. I wouldn't say they're in form, but there are guys like the big debate being Douglas Luiz or Bailey. Look, I think I myself, I'm going to go with Bailey, and I'll tell you why. And this is why I'm also siding with Bailey, and I guess you could say I'm being biased, but Bailey, in my opinion, offers more attacking threat in game play. And Douglas Luiz, honestly, really kind of depending on set pieces. And for me, I would rather go for someone who's more attacking in play, because most of the times you spend your time attacking in play. You get set pieces here and there, and sometimes the set pieces aren't necessarily all of that open. The team gets to actually set themselves up nicely defensively, and then you're kind of hoping for luck. Plus, at the same time, it could be a 1-2 header from there, and then after that, the assist isn't necessarily coming from there. And then, yes, fine, penalties, but we can't depend on that necessarily every single game. So when it comes to minutes, yes, Douglas Luiz is the better option. And Bailey has been starting this recently. He's been in okay form, but he's coming off round about the 70th minute. I myself honestly would rather have 70 minutes of Bailey. And the other big reason why I'm taking Bailey is because the bigger the risk, the bigger the reward. A lot of people are going to go towards Douglas Luiz, which is absolutely fine, honestly, guys, whichever way you go. But if Bailey returns, you're getting a huge upside. And that's what the game's about at this point of the season is being able to take those calculated risks, of course, but gaining margin over your mini leagues. So there's my huge pick of the week in terms of transfers. I think for those who are using their wild card, you could definitely go look into Wolves assets because they're playing Sheffield United, of course, Wang Hee-chan and Neto. I think the debate between them, for me, I'd lean more towards Wang Hee-chan because he's a midfielder who scores goals, and goals are more valuable than assists from Neto. In terms of who's taking set pieces, I heard FPL Raptor have a very good logic in saying that, man, who was it? It wasn't Sarabian, but there was a player who was actually taking penalties. And at the time Wang Hee-chan took the penalty, that specific player wasn't on the pitch. So I'm not sure if it is Sarabia. I highly doubt it is Sarabia, but there's a player that will be and is fit to make an appearance in Game Week 26. So I wouldn't lean on Wang Hee-chan because he's going to be taking penalties. I'm only leaning on him because he's the guy who actually finishes off Pedro Neto's runs and through balls. So yeah, in terms of Man United, so sorry for the guys who transferred in Hoyland very early. I understand it's a price rise that you're trying to catch. Bad luck, and he's going to be out apparently for about 2 weeks or so. So should you keep him? Should you hang on to him? I think that's up to you guys. I wouldn't myself. I know you're probably thinking, okay, what am I going to do? Everyone's already taking hits, guys. So it is a tough week in the sense of not a lot of us are going to have that luxury of fielding players without taking a hit. So if you need to take a hit for Rasmus Højlund, I think do so. Who do you go for? If you're a player who did not, who transferred out Watkins for Game Week 25 for maybe Tony or I don't know, whoever, and you thought, let me bring in Rasmus Højlund, guys, I think you should just bring Watkins back in. Bring Watkins back in, or even Tony, to be honest. Yes, that's actually the other team that is also going to be having a fixture in Game Week 29, which is Brentford. So from the guys who are not going to be using their free hit, they are playing West Ham, and I think that's actually a pretty good fixture for them. The only issue with Brentford is they go play Chelsea at home, which I think that's okay, and then they play Arsenal in Game Week 28, but away, and then Game Week 29 they play Burnley away. So they do have, in my opinion, out of the four, two good fixtures. It depends on how Chelsea depends to show up on that day in Game Week 27. So there are some Brentford assets that you can go for. If not in attack, then I think Reguilon is somebody who you can also consider, considering that he's also on set pieces with Tony. So I would only really lean on towards those two. And then just to round off with Man United as well, Garnacho is definitely somebody you could bring in if you got your free hit and planning to use it in Game Week 29. But guys, the best thing to do, honestly, in this case is I would say bring in players from Aston Villa to be cautious and wait between that Game Week 26 and 27 for the FA Cup games, and then you can actually start making your moves because you'll know which games are going to be happening in Game Week 29. We could get a Chelsea upset, allowing you to have Chelsea and Arsenal fixtures. Luton and I think Nottingham Forest could open up. So yeah, guys, like we could get those fixtures and that could open up a whole nother stream of players we can consider and bring in and maybe not even have to use the free hit in game week 29. So that would be my advice. Now let's take a look at my free hit game week 26. And I'll admit before I reveal my free hits that I did it before I heard about the news of Rasmus Højlund. So let's ignore him being in the free hit. And we can even consider a replacement off the bench, or we could think of somebody on the spot. But I've got Jose Sa in the goalkeeping, then Gabriel in defense, Alex Moreno and Kyle Walker. And then in the midfield, I've got De Bruyne, who's also fit to play. And then Pedro Neto and Wang Hee-chan with Saka in form there in the midfield. And then rounding off the 3-4-3 formation is Haaland with the captain band, Watkins. And we could think of, I would actually put Tony actually in that position right there, because West Ham is one of people who are out of form as well, as much as we've heard that Paqueta is back in training. So on the bench, we've got Onana, Reguilon, Anderson, and Garnacho. And that's my free hit for Game Week 26. And quite frankly, you know, those are also basically the options you could have in terms of bringing in people if you have your wild card or if you don't have your wild card. Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. So take a good look at that, guys. Take your shot, decide what you think. I think these are the best optimal players to use for the free hit. And then, yeah, of course, if Moreno doesn't make the, the team, which I think he will, you know, Reguilon could come in there, or Anderson actually, because they're playing Burnley at home. As much as we've got a caretaker manager at Palace, I think that's okay. And then you can decide whether you think Garnacho is going to perform much better than, say, Tony, the replacement of Højlund, but I would rather have Tony there in the replacement, considering that he's also on penalties and I think poses a bigger threat than Garnacho. So, yeah, guys, that's the team. Now, let's take a look at my team, the Killer Squad, going into Game Week 26. So, my transfers have been done. I took a -4 to bring in. I had Pinnock, who was injured, and I thought he was going to play. I brought him in for Game Week 25, but of course we all found out as soon as the game week started, which I really hate. So I replaced him with Reguilon, and then I, of course, took a hit to take out Diogo Jota, and also transferred out Darwin Núñez, and I took those two out for Liam Bailey, and I brought in Watkins from Nottingham Forest. So I do have my free hit, but I'm actually not planning to use it on Game Week 29. And the reason is I think it is more valuable in bringing, and this is my opinion, of course, you know, this past Game Week 25 with a whole lot of doublers sort of proved us that, you know, the extra fixture sometimes doesn't matter. If the player teams are in form, that is actually a better route. But in all honesty, I still prefer people who have an extra fixture. So I prefer to use my free hit in preferably either Game Week 34 or 37, which is going to be the big doubler with the big teams, and 34 doesn't necessarily have the big teams doubling. It's the mediocre team. So yeah, that is most likely where I'll be using my free hits, Game Week 37. But we will see, because things change, and yeah, we honestly can adapt our strategy based on how things are going with the teams. So guys, that is it. I didn't know if I could do this. I am on a tight leash by the wife. But honestly, just want to wish you guys a good game week in game week 26, considering that game week 25 just had some real howlers. And yeah, man, I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.